Hey Red Hawks, welcome back to MHS Behind the Curtain. Today we're here with our very own broadcasting teacher, Miss Carlson. So, obviously she's a new face to the hallways of Marist, but not a new face to the news. So, we'll start off with your background. What's your background of your life, pretty much?
Okay. Well, Ben, it's so nice to be here. Thank you. I'm honored that you wanted to talk. I started in radio and made the transition from radio to television. So I grew up in the south suburbs of Chicago, very attached to my family, never wanted to move. A very traditional path in broadcasting is you hop, skip across the country from a very small market to a slightly bigger market. Well, Chicago being my hometown, I really never wanted to leave and prayed very hard that my path would stay here and got very, very lucky. So I started working in Chicago radio, got on bigger and bigger radio stations. From there, started doing double duty on television and radio at the same time. For instance, ABC7 and WLS Radio have a synergy relationship from their business partners, so I was able to do both of those formats. And then once I got a little experience in television, also did a little work at WGN TV, I eventually was offered a full-time job at CBS 2, doing traffic for their morning newscast, and that blossomed into a lot more. And within a few years, I was the morning news weekday anchor at CBS 2. They went through a change of leadership and wanted to shake everything up, did not get renewed one contract, and then I ended up back in radio for a hot minute. I was at WLS Radio reporting, and then NBC came around and they said, hey, we want to come to NBC. So then I went to NBC5 as the weekend anchor and weekday reporter for their morning show. So I've kind of been at a lot of stations in Chicago. Yeah. God willing, I mean, our paths are always so unique and so individual, and I think it just takes really getting in touch with what's coming next. And again, I say I was lucky, but I was very blessed that I was able to stay home because it was important to me to stay close to family. Yeah.
So in college, did you have that really passion for news right away, or did you kind of figure out through college?
That's a good question. I actually, when I was a little kid, would set up my dolls and stuffed animals and read them the news. So I had this passion in me from the time I was a little tiny kid. And then for a while, when I was in high school, I was wavering between law school and journalism. And I ended up going the journalism route. And so I went to Loyola University here in Chicago, and I went in fully invested in their broadcasting journalism program and got a lot of training there, which, by the way, which we offer here in high school at Marist. So we're so lucky to have the resources that we have. But at Loyola, I was very involved in the radio station, and that led to contacts and things, and ultimately my first job. It's all about networking and building your path that way.
Yeah. So before, obviously you were on the news, but before, have you taught anywhere at any schools?
Yes. While I was I believe I was at CBS 2, I went back and got my master's degree with the intention that I wanted to teach someday. So after I got my master's degree that night and was working full-time during the day, I decided to teach as an adjunct back at my alma mater, which was Loyola. So I went and I taught some communication classes there for a while. Took a little break when I had my daughter, then I went back to it again, and most recently, my last contract at NBC, I was just ready for a change. I've been doing this a long time, and I didn't renew, and I was just kind of waiting for the right opportunity, and I started teaching at Trinity Christian College and Benedictine University in Lisle at the same time, and between those two teaching jobs, I was ready for one place to call home. So this is really an answer to prayer, because I prayed very hard to Mary, actually. I just felt very divinely connected to Mary, and I prayed to her, and I'm like, I really am ready for the right fit for me. And this was just the perfect opening. Father Hurley is the one who told me about the opening here, and I'm happy to be here.
Pretty cool. So do you have any further plans or goals for this Marist broadcasting club or class?
Yeah, that's a good question too. We are just getting started. Yeah. I'm getting my feet wet. The big change I brought in over the summer was the new set. And so that meant a lot to me to have an opportunity to upgrade our set, which I was able to get through a donation, which was very wonderful, and we're very grateful. the Chicago Archdiocese actually used the set that we use now, and they it was also used on CLTV, the local news station, for a while. And I have a friend over there who does set design, and they said that they were upgrading and they wanted to know if we wanted their set. So the big change has been, upgrading the set, making things look better. The big thing going on with the scoreboard, I kind of fell into that. That just happened to be that's another big thing going on for Broadcasting Club, is running the Jumbotron scoreboard with videos and a live feed, and having all of our wonderful, talented students being able to shoot during the big home game. So that's awesome. So as I'm trying to come up for air, getting used to everything, I hope to continue to evolve and expand and grow. I'm not sure what type of technology will be in our future. I will tell you this, though. It's really important for me to teach everyone the principles of audio and visual storytelling, because having been in the business for many decades, it changes. Yeah. So you don't want to, just learning one type of equipment is not the solution. You go through periods where, I'm really dating myself here, but we didn't have, there was one station I was at where it was a rip and read machine where you literally ripped paper off a machine rather than had digital copy. So there's a lot of changes that take place. I remember actually, now I sound like a grandma, but I remember using a razor blade literally to cut and splice reel-to-reel tape after I would do an interview. That didn't last very long. That was just in my very, very early days. And quickly everything transitioned over, and it's transitioned over again and again and again, and then social media exploded. So the methods of delivery change constantly. Yeah. And by the time you guys are doing this or doing any type of production, it's going to be completely different when you're out of school. Probably will change during your college years. Yeah. And that's okay. If you have the basics of how to be a good communicator, how to tell a good story, those are the skills that take you far. And that's my goal always, is to make sure people leave more confident and more comfortable with storytelling ability.
Okay, so going back to your news career, what was your favorite job?
Oh, that's a good one. You know what, there were a couple of career highlights. I loved WGN. I was there for a short time. There I met a news anchor named Randy Salerno when I did weekend news. He ended up coming to CBS 2, and we had a really fun crew, and our show was really picking up for a period of time there with, it was a good group of people. So to me, it's always been about the people that you're paired with, and that on-air chemistry can't really be faked. It really can't. And if you have a good group and you all really like and support each other and are friends with each other, that ends up being the best television, the best broadcasting, because that comes through. They say, there's a famous expression, everyone's an idiot, but the audience is a genius. And it's so true, and that people can sense when you're being genuine, when you're being fake, when you're trying too hard. So if you really like the people you work with, it ends up being a career highlight as well as a personal highlight, because it's so fun. You just love being with the people you're with.
So can you give, to the people out there that might want to know, what was a day in the life of a news anchor?
Oh, good question.
Just a whole day.
You've come up with some good questions. Your teacher trained you well. I'm just kidding. No, you're very smart, Ben, very intuitive. So that's a great question, because there was no typical day. And to be honest, that's what I was always drawn to about the news business. It's never the same, especially if you're working general assignment, where one day you're covering Chocolate Fest or Strawberry Fest in Long Grove, and the next day you're on the streets of Chicago covering, serious murder. So it was different every day. I did work early morning shift the majority of my career. So getting up, right now I get up at 4:30, and that's like sleeping in for me. I know that's hard to relate to. But at NBC, I would get up at 12:30. I had to be on air, camera ready at 2 a.m. And it was rough. Towards the end there, during the pandemic, we weren't riding in the trucks with the photographers, so they would send me in my personal vehicle out to whatever was going on in the middle of the night. And honestly, sometimes it was a little unnerving, because you don't want to be a person all alone driving in your car in the middle of the night. I had a lot of cops tell me, go through the red lights, don't stop anywhere, get right to your story. And sometimes it was a little scary. So it was an adrenaline rushed existence every day for one reason or another. And then you'd get to your story, you'd figure it out, and you had to get on the air. And sometimes, this is why I always stress ad-libbing, because sometimes you didn't have time to sit down and craft your story. We were on the air at 4 o'clock. When there's a deadline, there's a deadline. There's no, can I be 5 minutes late? Oh wait, I'm not done yet. It's the camera's on, come up with something to say. So it was a very fast-paced environment, and then all of a sudden it would be like, then it was over, and then that was it. I mean, it was like good or bad or whatever, however it went, it was done. There was nothing you could do, it was over until the next day.
It's pretty cool. So I think that's all we have for today at MHS Behind the Curtain. I'd like to thank Ms. Carlson for coming out today. So thank you for coming out.
Oh, my pleasure.
And
I came so far, all the way from across the hallway.
Yeah. So thank you, and tune in next time for MHS Behind the Curtain.